As I reflect from my trip from the Pilipinas, magandang ang Pilipinas, I can only be express gratitude and oh my goodness, like I literally was crying. Like I just cry again. That's so cathartic and so nostalgic every time. Not only do I leave a country, but one that like really just makes me see the world in such a different light. Um, and if you're new here, welcome. Hi, this is me going to talk about just some preconceptions and knowing how to be a traveler, learning the ways and trying to uh, create cultural connections and also the resilience in which people have withstood and uh, time, space, and the ways in which they continue to do that as I am a visitor, but also as someone immersed the in the culture and really wants to learn to be better because when you know better you do better. And we'll begin with, I believe so, I was with Cebu City with my friend, and his family is from Pilipinas, but he left. Now I'm currently in Taiwan, so I wanted to make this reflection just on like my own personal experiences. And I went to Manila for about we went to Manila for about 4 days. No, sorry, we landed in Manila. It was just a layover, and then we went to Cebu City. We were there for about 4 days. Then we went to Sikihor Island for another like 5 days, and then after that, he left, and which was really sad for me, because we had just been months traveling, right? And that was his third time visiting the motherland for him. But for me, I decided to stay in Manila for another like 4 days or 5 days, I believe. And I wanted to I always love to go to like the museums and learn about the narratives from literally like the people, because there's one thing from what learning the history was from a textbook, from a teacher, especially a white history teacher, and now coming for myself and literally reading the literature, reading what cultural artifacts and witnessing, right? It's just like it's a trip. So for me, like that's what traveling is all about, is immersing myself in it. And I would say that the from Cebu, I believe that in the National Museum you learn like so much from, and we spent a couple of hours there, but it was just so interesting when we come in and how uh, you notice the fact that there is the death of Magellan, and then how he like encountered the native people here. And it's still unknown from like especially local perspective of like whether it was Lapu Lapu the hero or his group, but nonetheless, Magellan was killed in in the island of Filipinas, and so it was beautiful to see how like like the beginning, and then we go straight into the nature aspect and the biology, and you get to learn of how out of all of the flora, fauna, and biodiversity in the world, Pilipinas has like 70 to 80%, or like a huge number, and that's so amazing. Like, oh my god, as an animal lover, as someone, not only that I'm vegan, but as someone who just enjoys learning about the different types of like biodiversity that exist, it's like, oh my gosh, like it puts really into perspective how endemic a lot of species are. And especially when I was in Rizal Park in Manila, you can see the contrast of like there were signs that said, okay, like this is a non-native species, so due to that fact we're going to have to remove it and switch it out with native species. So that was pretty interesting to like read in the park. I haven't like really seen that in other parks and explicitly said, pero I really enjoyed that. And then Um, so learning about that, and then the tamara, which is the national mammal of the Philippines, and how the I believe it's called like there's a paradox, or it's where the animal is essentially like a water buffalo, but because of the island and the limited like predators or just limited resources in general, the dwarfism gene kicks in, and so they were the smallest like species on Earth of water buffalo. They're so cute, and we were able to like learn more about that, and then also how whale sharks are around the islands and have been migrating for like hundreds and hundreds of years. So that was pretty nice. I love trying new foods. Pandesal. I'm still literally thinking about that, and it was so hard. I had yet to try about that, but we mostly ate vegan food, and I think a reality for, and I think that speaks on privilege, is that many people that are like able to have whole plant-based foods, or just go to restaurants that literally say vegan too, I realized that are that are really expensive too. So it's like expensive abroad, but they may cater to tourists. And that's the other thing. It's just like a balance of like trying to find local food that's not solely based on meat. And I think that was one of the first signs too, that it's a meat loving country for sure. And I think lechon, which is a I mean, from what I've witnessed, it's like a fried pork, ready to be eaten, but like everything right on the table in the middle of the plate. And I know that there's some cultural significance in the surround celebrations around that, but as you know, like that's literally the food, it's the staple food. So, the vegan option for that is some mushroom take of that, but I had yet to try that, and I I loved eating just like the vegan sisig though, and pancit. Just think about that. And then there was a lot of ube. My friend loved the ube shakes. Like he literally devoured each time we went there. And it was just so, and like locking eyes with somebody, I always think about that person that just said hi, and he was like, "Oh, you're from Guatemala?" Like I was a tourist there. No, he worked on the cruise ship there, and then which transitions into the next part of the ways in which I realized, and this is what my friend said, that his family, even from the islands, has yet to see the islands, and because of his accessibility to resources and finances, he's able to explore more of the island. But that's not a reality for a lot of people from here. And the thing is that many sacrifice, even like to go, not only to provide for the families in other islands, but also to like go and explore overseas, and especially like the labor that's extracted from people. And I think that just speaks onto the immigrant experience as well, across the world, and even from a personal experience. But like these stories that I kept learning from the locals, and even on the income inequality, I believe one of our tourists, like the drivers, he said that they survive off of $225 per day. So, and they're paired with another story in which one of the like people, foreigners, like as a business partners with ours, with a local, and now that she's a partner though, like a business partner, and trying to create that future, or trying to make that for them. I just love that it's it, it's it's like the ownership of the person and the agency. I think that's what it is. I think that, going back to that, and the more that I was learning in Manila of even like the galleon trade between Pilipinas and Acapulco, Mexico, and then the culture exchange of people and items and goods. I think that with that said, there's going to be cultural knowledge exchanged too. Oh, sorry. My phone keeps falling down. I'm gonna need to come a little closer. But it's one of those things where they stopped the trade because it was becoming non-profitable. And I think because of the profit, I think like the profit, right? That's the center of a lot of, I think, my reflections too, of like how much profit is enough, right? Like before you decide you want to get back to the communities. And so I it's really nuanced, and I think there is a lot of nuance in there as well, right? Because even the income inequality, from what I was researching, is the fact that it's still widening, and it's through historical, it's through the people in charge, policy, and the ways in which you have investments, you know. And then so I started really learning about that and thinking about like the social welfare of it all, and how the resources of islands, and also the bodies, and how they're privatized and corporatized, but yet they cater to a certain audience or a certain clientele. And so then practices then begin to be lost in a way. And for me personally, like, I feel that a stronger sense for community rather than like the foreign dollar. And this is coming from somebody that is bringing in foreign money. And I think for me, like, I want to be respectful, and I try to like shop local as much as I can, rather than like the 7-Elevens or even some of those restaurants. It was like McDonald's, for example. Like, since I stopped eating at McDonald's, I think for me it was really nice to just have a sense of understanding that when it goes to the people, it goes back to like their own livelihoods and their own humanity, and leaving the tip, always leaving the tip. I mean, it was like one of those things where it doesn't even have to be about pity or sympathy. It's just like this is the collective in which there is a smaller ground amount of people that are harboring and even having this, and the meaning there's still, you know, even the basic needs for people that are lacking. And for it was so disheartening to continue reading about that. And then I started thinking too of like how people make ends meet and the sacrifices that they do. So I think, and mental health, and I think it's all encompassing for sure, and how that goes. But nevertheless, I think through the Museum of Fine Arts and through the Museum of Anthropology, being able to look and witness at the cultural significance of even having like meteorites being displayed, having artists and cultivating and honoring and passing on traditional and intellectual knowledge from the greats, to then I forgot what they called it. It's like a creative prize, or like a like an honor basically, and that they take away the elders, have this knowledge and they pass it down to the new generations, and they teach them like textiles or wood carvings or anything in which that's of cultural significance, because there is the practice is lessening and lessening as with more and more the elderly population that is dying. So I think that there's a lot to be said in the fact that the countries are already making their own ways independent of others, and I think that that's beautiful and needs to be invested upon and built on. And I think that for me, I was just an observer in being able to learn and how to make it more better, because I strongly believe that through community, like, anything is possible. And so interestingly enough, when I left on July 4th, I was reflecting, which was the 250th year of the United States. I was reflecting on how even Rizal, Dr. Jose Rizal, which was a national hero, has been really celebrated in leading against and defeating the Spanish conquistadors as well, and to fight for independence. And so, and even from the United States. And I mean, the fact that there's an intermix of like Spanish with the people here is just again another connection across other even other Latin American countries. And I loved also being around people that look like me. Like, I even got mistaken for a Filipino person and a Pilipinas person. And so I just want you to know that it's literally like something that I see also, like white supremacy here through the media, through the colorism. However, it was something that I can only leave with love and gratitude, and for that, I'm just grateful. But more to unpack soon. I'm heading to Taiwan next. Well, I am in Taiwan now, but I will be doing one on Taiwan. So stay tuned. Bye. When you know better, you do better.